Hey there, Trailblazers, I hope you guys are all doing well. So many of you guys may know that lately we have been getting absolutely flooded with SPs or new 5-star versions for many existing characters in the game, such as the upcoming Blade SP and Himiko SP in 4.3 and 4.4 respectively, while Aventurin and Robin SP are also coming in patch 4.5. Well, the train is not stopping with just those 4 characters, because now a brand new leak is suggesting that both KAFKA and ACHERON will also be getting SP versions in the version 5 update. So in this video, we're going to cover all of the available information that we have about both of these new SP units. And along with this, also discuss their potential gameplay kits as well. But before we get started, just a quick reminder that everything discussed here is based on early leaks from an unofficial source, so nothing is officially confirmed yet, and things can still change in the future. With that out of the way, let's begin without wasting any more time. So according to the information that was posted today, both KAFKA and ACHERON SP are being linked to the upcoming planet in version 5, known as Petrivia. Now, for those of you who might not remember the name, Petrivia is actually an existing location in the game's lore. In the lore of Honkai, Star Rail, Petrivia is described as a massive asteroid belt that was turned into glass by the Lord Ravager Zephyro, essentially making it a destroyed or heavily altered world rather than a traditional planet. It's also known to be connected to groups like the Morning Actors, which gives the location a very theatrical and dramatic tone in terms of world building and storytelling. And interestingly, Petrivia has already been referenced in the main story as one of the possible destinations that the Astral Express could travel to in the future, meaning it has been quietly set up for quite a long time now. So the fact that this leak specifically mentions Petrivia, rather than just saying version 5X planet for instance, actually adds a bit more weight to the idea that this could be tied to a real planned story arc. Now, the second important detail here is the source behind this information, which is a leaker known as Uncle Latte. And based on available reports, this source has shared a mix of both theories and actual leaks in the past, meaning that while some of their claims have turned out to be accurate, others were more speculative in nature. Which is exactly why the original note in the image clearly says that some of this might just be theory, and some might be an actual leak. So realistically speaking, what we can safely take from this information right now is not that KAFKA SP and ACHERON SP are fully confirmed, but rather that there is early talk or speculation linking these characters to the future Petrivia storyline, which is expected to happen sometime during the version 5 cycle. And honestly, from a pacing perspective, this timing makes a lot of sense. Because right now, the version 4 patches are already stacked with multiple SP characters, so saving extremely popular characters like KAFKA and ACHERON for version 5 would be a very logical move from a development standpoint. As for the potential kits for both characters, this is where things get a lot more interesting, but also a lot more speculative. Starting with KAFKA SP first. If we look at Kafka's current identity in Honkai, Star Rail, she is fundamentally enabler and detonator, built around triggering and accelerating damage over time effects like shock. So if she does get an SP form, the biggest question is not whether she keeps that identity, but how far they push it. One very common theory floating around is that KAFKA SP could move from being just a trigger-based enabler into something closer to a full command unit. Meaning instead of simply detonating existing dots, she could potentially start applying stronger personal effects that scale off her own stats, or even convert team-wide damage into amplified bursts. There's also a possibility that her SP form could introduce a new mechanic where enemies take delayed burst windows, where KAFKA essentially marks targets and then forces all accumulated damage to explode at specific intervals rather than instantly on trigger. That would make her feel a lot more strategic and less spam-focused compared to her current form. Now moving on to ACHERON SP, and this one is arguably even more explosive in terms of speculation. ACHERON already has a very unique identity in the game as a nihility damage dealer who doesn't really follow traditional energy mechanics. Instead, she revolves around building stacks and unleashing massive burst damage through her ultimate. So for an SP version of Acheron, most theories are pointing toward an even more exaggerated version of that identity. One idea is that Acheron SP could shift into a multi-layer ultimate system, where instead of one big finisher, she could chain multiple stages of her ultimate depending on how many stacks she builds. So, for example, the more enemies affected by debuffs or slashed marks, the more phases her ultimate unlocks. Another theory suggests she could become even more self-sufficient, potentially generating her own stack economy without relying as heavily on teammates applying debuffs. That would make her SP form much more flexible in team building, while still keeping that signature high-burst identity. And if Hoyoverse really wants to push things further, there's also the possibility that Acheron SP could introduce a sort of execution threshold mechanic, where enemies below a certain HP percentage are instantly consumed by her ultimate animation, reinforcing that Reaper-like fantasy she already has. But again, all of this is purely based on pattern analysis and early speculation. Nothing about their kits is confirmed, and SP characters can sometimes end up taking completely different directions than what leaks suggest. Still, if even part of this turns out to be true, both KAFKA SP and Acheron SP could end up being some of the most game-changing versions of existing characters we've seen so far. So overall, while it's too early to treat any of this as fact, the idea of both KAFKA and Acheron getting SP forms in the version 5 cycle is definitely something worth keeping an eye on, especially considering how important both characters already are to the meta and the story. Anyway, that's pretty much everything we know right now about the potential SP versions for KAFKA and Acheron. If you found this breakdown helpful, feel free to leave a like, and also don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you want to stay up to date with all the latest HSR news and updates. That's it for now, so I'll be seeing you guys in the next video.